Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Northern Light Spiritual Center. Northern Light Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. Our promise to reveal, thank you, Reverend Pamelagrace, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. We also acknowledge that so much of what we know in this country today, including the culture, economic growth and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice. And we acknowledge the tremors of the violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed today. If you care to, please join me for our opening song in this very room by Ron and Carol Harris. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's so nice to see everybody in the room. Boy, this has not happened in a while, right? So let's take this off. Let us prepare for this morning's meditation. What's that?
Lights out?
No, we're
That's
good.
fine. No, let's keep them on. Since we're talking about light today, let's keep them on. Okay. So let's prepare for this morning's meditation by allowing ourselves to get comfortable in our seats, removing everything from our laps, putting our hands in our laps in an open and upright position, and allowing our eyes to close. Let us take 3 deep cleansing breaths in and out together. So let's breathe in and let it go. Breathe in again and let it go. And one more time, in and let it go. And as you allow your breath to return to its normal pattern, do a quick survey of your body. and see if there's any part that is still holding on. Any part that is not relaxed. And if you find such a part, say to it, relax, release, and let go. Just relax, release, and let go. And just allowing yourself to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so today we're talking about light. And what is light? Light illuminates. Light casts out darkness. So when you think about light, the light that dwells within each and every one of us, think about ways in which you allow your light to shine. How do you let your light shine in your life? Where are those places that you're illuminating, that you're casting out darkness? So think of those places. Where are you illuminating? And now think of those places where you would like to let your light shine. Places in your light where the light could be dim or appear to be non-existent. Where you would like the light to be even brighter. To illuminate even more. Where are those places? And now, for all those places that you identified where you'd like your light to shine even brighter, or to shine at all, see your light shining in all of those places. See the light intensify to become more brilliant, even brighter than you ever thought possible. How wonderful it feels to let our light shine. What a wonderful sensation. What a wonderful experience. Feel it. Revel in it. Enjoy it. How wonderful it feels to let our light shine. So let us allow ourselves to come back into this room, back into this space. We, however, come back in an illumined way, in a brighter way, in a way that we allow our light to shine. So let's breathe that in. And let it go. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to open. Let's see here. Okay. So this morning's reading is on my phone again. And it's called 5 Ways to Bring More Light into Your Life. A couple of days ago, we passed through the winter solstice, the gateway that takes us from the shortest, darkest day of the year back into the light. I can't help but notice that here in San Francisco, the endless rain has ceased and the sun has emerged, creating a bright, crisp winter day. It brings about an excitement in me, an aliveness to my cells. The days have begun to get longer, and the promise of the sun is upon us again. Today is also the 8th day of Hanukkah, a holiday of miracles, celebration, and the power of light. With the new year right around the corner, the invitation is particularly strong for us to step out of darkness and emerge into the light even more. Regardless of where you are on your path to awakening, we can use the promise of light to instill in us the faith and trust it takes to move through our own darkness. This time of year invites us to evolve into our greatness just a little more. It is nature's invitation to stop identifying with your wounds, stop feeding your stories of lack, and commit instead to all that is right and whole. What if your perspective, your consciousness, your reality was rooted in the brilliance of your divine light 90% of the time? Who would you see? What would you see? How glorious is that light? Are you willing to explore what you see in ultimate light instead of ultimate darkness? Do you dare to live in the fullness of your joy, your spirit, your God given light 100% of the time? It's a pretty powerful concept to consider. You are exquisitely divine. Your soul is made of pure light, pure love, and pure energy that comes into form through your unique expression and embodiment of that light. It's your embodiment, your ownership of your light, that allows it to exist fully in you and allow it to light up the whole room. Ooh, this room is bright, the whole world. So how do we identify the light within us and around us? And how do we make it grow? The light is always present and it's available to illuminate your path at any time. The key is reorientating your focus to notice it and then committing your energy to cultivate it. Here are 5 simple ways to bring more light into your life. Number 1, reorient your focus. One of the greatest spiritual laws affirms that what we have our attention on becomes our life. Have you ever noticed that when you're stuck in glass half empty mode, then everything seems to go wrong? The opposite is also true. Even in the midst of profound darkness, in the midst of a worldwide upheaval and strife, we can find the light by looking for it and by looking at it. It only takes one match to light up a dark room. So what's illumined in your life right now in the midst of everything? What is working for you? What is growing? What match can you light to spark that initial flame of positivity, wholeness, and hope? Number 2, become generative. This is by far the most powerful way to bring more light and positivity into your life. Being generative means intentionally putting your energy toward that which you want to have grow. You are generating the outcome you want through your words, action, choices, thoughts, etc. It means you're taking radical responsibility to be the pioneer of your life's experience. This takes the first step a bit further. Now that you know how to find light, how can you cultivate it? Practice being generative 10 times a day. Okay, so 10 times a day. We're already getting homework. It's not even my time to speak. But practice being generative 10 times a day. Choose language that cultivates your intention, the outcome you want, etc. Make it a point to engage in things that light you, your soul, and make you happy from within. Start saying what you do want instead of talking about what you don't want or don't like. Put energy toward that which you are creating. Number 3, bring it back home to you. How often do you find yourself stuck in the comparison game? How often are you focused on what's happening out there, over there with him, her, or them? Comparing ourselves to others opens the door to a massive pity party of lack, less than, and the consciousness of being broken in some way. Bring more light into your life by keeping your first attention on yourself and releasing the story of something being wrong or lacking within you just because it exists with someone else. Bring your focus back to this very moment on your unique path of self-actualization. What are you proud of? What are you up to? And what are you creating for yourself right now? You can use your body to bring it back home. Tap your heart. Bring your focus to the back of your neck and shift your posture forward bending to lean slightly backward. The more you listen to and trust your own inner guidance instead of what's going on with someone else, the more divine guidance you will receive and your soul will shine from the inside out. Number 4, celebrate. It's the holidays. It's to the end of the year and the start of a new one. You're alive. You're reading. I'm reading the blog. You're listening to the blog. This is cause to celebrate. The celebration of life brings light in more quickly than anything else. Every morning before getting out of bed, spend 5 minutes in a gratitude party with yourself. What are you grateful for? What miracles are taking place in your life right now in this moment today? What gives you cause to celebrate? It can be as simple as celebrating the fact that it's a sunny day, or that your cat is snuggling up to you, or that your breath works brilliantly on your behalf. Take a deep breath and breathe in all the amazingness that is here to celebrate. Join the party. Number 5, become aligned. When we are aligned, our words, actions, and choices with our highest intentions, we allow the clouds to part and the most incredible rays of light to shine through us. Living in alignment means we are living with dignity, integrity, and even reverence for ourselves and for life itself. Take a moment to remember this throughout the day instead of habitually reacting out of the impulse of your normal, comfortable, passive way. Ask yourself, how can you make your choices more congruent with the highest vibration of who you really are? What would it look like if you allowed yourself to shine from a place of integrity and personal triumph today instead of from a place of ego? Remember how divine and perfect you are right now. You are illuminated, here to shine and to cultivating the life of the world together. And so it is.
So it is. Oh. So we have a declaration which we've recently come up with, and you're going to see it here. I'm going to go through it, and then I'm going to have everybody repeat it 3 times. So, we are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. So, we are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. One more time. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And one more time. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And so it is.
Yes. I like it.
O come, Emmanuel, and guide me through my every obstacle that rises through my grief and fear, until I let the God within appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel abides within my living soul. Now you, O come, Emmanuel, until you let the God within appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel abides within your living soul. Now we, oh come, Emmanuel, and guide us through our every obstacle that rises through our grief and fear, until we let the God within appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel abides within our living soul. And back to me and my, oh come, Emmanuel, and guide me through my every obstacle that rises through my grief and fear, until I let the God within appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel abides within my living soul. Well, good morning, Northern Lights.
Good morning.
So for whoever sees this in Zoom, I'm Reverend Pamelagrace, the founding minister who turned the church over to this good hands of Reverend Vaughn and Reverend Michael. So here we are in this wonderful time of Year of Lights. And the title of my talk is The Light in the Dark. I changed up on Michael.
I never stuck to any of it.
And so there are three things to consider when thinking about the light in the dark. And as we have said many times, this center is about presenting spiritual and practical principles to create lives we love living. So this is a combination of spiritual and practical approaches to light. And there are three areas: the who, the what, and the we. So on the who, I know that I'm not the only one in the room where all along the way there have been people who have encouraged me. I can certainly tell you loads of stories of people who discouraged me. But fortunately, along with that, there were the people who encouraged me. The people who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And this philosophy, when we train practitioners who are our, I'm going to call them prayer warriors, but they do a sort of coaching, praying, encouraging, and the element, the essence of what they do as practitioners when they're working with someone is to hold the energy around what we see in that person as far as potential is concerned versus what they're seeing in front of them that they may be caught up in. So in the practitioner sessions, we work to uncover the beliefs around whatever it is this person is concerned about so that we can see the truth of it. So in that who, if you think about it, who might be the lights? They might be a teacher, a friend,
a family member. Could be someone you meet on the street. I remember once when I was at Washington State University, there were very few black students. And apparently a number of the other students, mainly white students, because there were 12,000 people in the school and about 25 blacks, that had not been around black people and they didn't know what to say to us. But on one day, I think it was my sophomore year, I was walking to class and this guy said, "Hi." And I said,
Hi.
"Hi?" And he went on his merry way. Of the 4 years that I was there, he was the only person who ever spoke to me like that. Now, people who got to know me, people who were in my classes, people who were in my wonderful dance group, they were friendly, but just walking up the street on campus, no one had ever said that didn't know me, "Hi," and kept going. And he was a light. And that morning, and something I've never forgotten, even though my college days are many moons ago. So we have these lights. And I am recommending that we remember them, particularly when we're moving into the dark. Who has seen the potential for us? Who has been the one to encourage us? And sometimes they can encourage us in ways we never saw as encouragement. But yet down the line, we recognize that they were trying to encourage us to be all that we could be. So it's important to be thankful for those lights, because as we know, thankfulness is a higher vibration, and we call to us wherever we're vibrating. And if we want to call good into the world, then we need to vibrate at that level. And I'll tell you that sometimes spirit just brings the good in anyway, regardless of where we're vibrating. Mm-hmm. But if we want to put our effort into it, then it's about vibrating at a higher level. One other thing about the Who lights, I sound like a Dr. Seuss book, the Who's, is the repeat lights. These are the lights we're most likely to forget. We'll take them for granted. The people who repeatedly are there for us and encourage us and listen to us. I have a best friend in Baltimore who has heard everything, both good, bad, and in the middle of my life. And she is a repeat, she's a repeat light. She's always saying, "Well, Pamela, something good. Well, Pamela, something to think about. Well, Pamela, something to grow on." And I just am so happy that I have her in my life, because we met in junior high school and we're still good friends. She's a wonderful thing. So there are these repeat lights that we may take for granted. The people who maybe go a little extra out of their way to do something for us, or to encourage us, or just to listen to us. Those wonderful lights. So the what? This moves into situations. I was thinking, it came to me this morning, I remember when I was working at one of those companies I worked for. But this one I worked for 12 years. And my management would send me to these workshops. And there was one my manager sent me to that was a week long. And I said, "I don't have time for that. I've got projects." I tended to get kind of stuck in my work. Does that ring? Yeah, a number of us do. We just get mired into it. And we have the feeling that if we pulled out of it, the entire world would collapse.
Amen.
Because we think sometimes what we're doing is that important. The truth is that something else would come along and take our place. But anyway, I was stuck in this job. I don't have time to go out for a week-long workshop of I don't even know what or why. So, to be truthful, apparently I think my manager was trying to fix something by sending me to this workshop. She didn't tell me what she was fixing. She didn't say, well, I want you to work on your interpersonal community skills, or I want you to step more into leadership. So I had no guidelines.
Oh.
And typically that's true. You get sent to these workshops. I was a trainer where somebody just said, you there, you go to this workshop. And sometimes they said, you there, you go to this workshop because your communication style is bad. So these people will come into the workshop looking like this. Make me like it. And you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Well, I was one of them. So the what of it, so you can see that there was a who, but the what of it was the workshop itself it was in Detroit. It had a number of Detroit motor employees who were supervisors and managers in the room, a big cadre of them, and they kind of clumped together. And then there was the rest of us, and we were from various parts of our organizations. Day one, I called my supervisor at the end of the day and I said, I hate this, I want to come home. Day two, I called and I said, I still hate this, but I'm willing to stay. She didn't hear from me again until I came home. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And one of the whats, besides getting to know a very different group of people, the Detroit manufacturing managers and supervisors, that was an interesting what. But besides that, one of the whats was they put us in a group to do some problem solving and idea generation. And they had given us a personality test the day before, and then they put us in the group that we were the same type. Like you have your type A's and your type B's. Well, they put us all in there. And it took me 5 minutes to recognize, I'm in a group of people, a whole bunch like I am. Consequently, I did have enough sense to figure out that my style of being in a group of people just like me was not gonna work.
Yeah.
And so they were all vying to get their ideas. It was the ideas group who likes to push their ideas. They were all vying to get their ideas accepted, and they were fighting about it, and we only had so much time. And then there were other groups, and I remember the group that was very, very quiet and went along with the flow were having a hard time coming up with ideas. They were having a hard time making decisions. And so in observing my group and their group, I finally saw, and you're probably already there before me, the beauty of diversity. The beauty of the people who are quiet and think about things versus the people who are vocal with their ideas versus the people who like to run things versus the people who are willing to just go along with the flow. We need all of that. So that was my what out of that workshop. That circumstance of seeing what it was like to be in a room full of me. And although I think I'm totally adorable, I can see where a room full of me could be a bit much. I got that. And it helped me sort of rein in, and it also made me appreciate what the other personality types brought. At the end of the project, or the group working on the problem, at the end of it, they had us choose somebody to talk. Again, with my group, that was easy. Whoever was the loudest got it. And talk about the experience and what they learned. And again, it drove in deeper how important it can be to have a mix, a diversity. Now, what's most interesting about that is that's what we have been trying to convince companies of to this very day, that no, really, you'll do better if you have a diverse group of people and you allow them to speak and you invite them in and you make them comfortable and you do things in your meetings, moderation and facilitation, so that everybody is heard, and from that you get a better product. We're still teaching that, and the companies are still learning that. But the what can be circumstantial. It can even be something that brings light to you that seemed like something you didn't want to do, like that workshop. Or maybe something you haven't done before, and so you give it a try. Another what was baking turkeys for Thanksgiving. I have done 4 of them in my lifetime because I don't have my own family. I'm not a mother. I haven't been a wife. And whenever friends invited me to dinner and I said, what can I bring? And they would say, oh, well, would you like to bring the turkey? I would say, sure, I've never baked one before. That'll be a new experience. And of course, then they took that one right off the table. Oh, you haven't? No, we're not going to have you ruin our Thanksgiving.
Turkey's important.
But last year and this year, I got to bake the turkey because I went to Thanksgiving with my boyfriend to his family's house, and the hostess, is vegan. So she was not going to be handling a turkey. She said, but if y'all want a turkey, you can bring it. So I didn't tell Michael that would be my 3rd time trying to bake a turkey. I just went online, looked it all up, chose the combination of ideas I thought would work, and baked a turkey. So out of that what situation, here's what came from it. Sister, plug your ears.
Oh,
So usually my Thanksgivings were family Thanksgiving with about 40 people, maybe 50. The last time we did it, it was 50. I counted them. And I would bring a dish and other people would bring a dish, and we had all these dishes and the food was delicious. But here's the juice of the what. With this Thanksgiving, going to my boyfriend's, I made the turkey, I made gravy, I made stuffing, and this year I made mac and cheese, and they made the mashed potatoes. Last year I made them, and sweet potato pie. Now the what of that and the significance of that what is twofold. 1, the turkey was delicious, thank you very much, and 2, I had so much fun cooking that many dishes because I never have. On Thanksgiving, we always have potluck. And I didn't mention 3, but 3 is I really like my cooking. And I had such fun playing with these different approaches and recipes and adding different flavors. As I said, I started with Google on the turkey, and then I went from there. And I got to add various things to each one of these recipes, and so they were kind of new to me. And I discovered through that what that I absolutely love cooking. I mean, I knew I loved cooking anyway, but I really enjoyed cooking, and I really enjoyed cooking so many sides for Thanksgiving because I picked all my favorites. And I liked how they tasted. So I was a very happy camper. And fortunately, some of the people in the room enjoyed it too. And the hostess was happy not to have had to make a turkey. So that was an interesting situation because when I told my friends, oh, I'm making the turkey for Thanksgiving and we're taking it over, they were like, the hostess isn't making it? And I have to go through the whole spiel. She's a vegan, blah, 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 blah. They were like, oh, you poor dear, you have to make the turkey. Well, that's probably because they baked 40 of them. But since I was on my 4th one, it's still a novelty and I loved it. So a lot of times we get these situations where we're like, I don't want to do it. I don't like it. Or I'm not going to enjoy it. And then we discover something totally different. So being open to what the what will bring us is so important. And sometimes that what is cross-eyed ugly. It is definitely not something we're embracing. And yet, as a result of that, as we always say, there was a pony in there somewhere. We may have a whole different opinion of something, or we may have learned that we're very sure that that's something we're never going to do again. Now I know. I don't have to be curious. So there's always some kernel of good, even in the what's that aren't good. If nothing else, we learn, I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to be like that, ever. In the process of being lights, We have the people, the who's, who have encouraged us, shown a light on our path, reflected the light in our souls that we weren't seeing. We have those people. We have the situations that teach us or reach us or allow us to grow. And then we have the dimmers. You know how you have a lamp and you can turn it down a little bit or you can turn it off? So we have the dimmers, and they can be a who and a what as well. Those people who say, nah, you can't do that. How many have heard, oh, honey, you can't do that in the room here? Good, good. Okay. So we've all heard you can't do that. It can't be done. What? You're going to turn down that job waiting for something better? Really? So those are the dimmers. We've heard the people who come and criticize us in our efforts. When I first started singing, I got a lot of feedback. And I even asked for it because I didn't know. So I said, I need to know. And initially, sometimes my feelings were a little hurt. And especially depending on how people delivered the feedback. I am not going to go into good delivery of feedback here today because we don't necessarily have the time. But I'm going to tell you now that there's a way to deliver feedback that can be more encouraging. And that's if you include what you liked about something or what you thought was positive or strong, and then give one or two criticisms. Toastmasters, I was in Toastmasters for years, and they actually had competitions. And Michael's shaking his head because he was in it for years. They have competitions where people learn how to give feedback and evaluations. One of the things I love most about their competitions is you had to find something good. And if you didn't, then you were X'd as an evaluator. So, and there were times I remember when I was in the evaluator role, I remember working really, really, really hard to figure out what was good about what I was hearing. Because sometimes the speakers were very unaccomplished. That's why they were in Toastmasters. And I would be thinking, okay, it's a bit long-winded. I don't know the point, but here's what I do know. This person loves growing tomatoes. That's a plus. The passion about growing. This was a true story. That was the whole talk for 5 minutes about growing tomatoes, which at that time I could care less about, and I still haven't gained a lot of appreciation for. But anyway, I found some good stuff and made some appropriate, and here's what you could do better. But sometimes those folks out there criticizing us can be dimmers. Michael and I have been watching Harry and Meghan, and we just watched the series where she's succumbing to the amazing amounts of negative criticism in the press. And I remember when this was happening, and I read some of it, but I never thought about how overwhelming it could be to have that much bad talk going on about you in the newspapers, and especially when a lot of it was lies. And she took it in. It depressed her. It made her even consider, and she says this, committing suicide. She said, if I weren't here, this wouldn't be here. That's a tragic response to criticism. And sometimes criticism does that kind of damage. And especially depending on the situation, like with children who are growing, and Ron would agree with me here, they're a vulnerable population. And so abject, indiscriminate, careless criticism can just crush them and change them from the path they were on forever. How many have experienced or remember anything like that in a child in the room? Mm-hmm. I remember when one teacher told me my poetry was awful because I had no pentameters, which was, and no feet, which was a way of arranging poetry so that it had a tempo that went like this, and then the next line, a tempo that went like that, and then the last line, etc. So it had this pattern. I just wrote poetry the way I wanted to write it, and I was also, by the way, probably 11 years old. So I stopped writing poetry until I grew up because obviously I write terrible poetry, and I still can't tell you what a pentameter is, and I don't care. But I liked my poetry. So there's those outside of us who dim our own lights, with their criticism and their dismissiveness and their, you can't do it, you can't be it, it'll never happen. But even more tragic than that is the internal criticisms that dim our lights. I can't do it. I'll never be more than that. I'll go back to my singing. I was looking online and watching people sing, and I was looking up the people I knew here in Seattle who sang. So this is first year, right? My first year venturing out to be a jazz singer, and I'm seeing these folks do this wonderful work with their music. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm nowhere near that. God, I don't sound like that. I hate my voice. And then I caught myself and I said, okay, don't look at those people anymore right now. Look at them when you've gotten a little better and you can stand looking at the competition. Thank you, Opal. She's guarding the door. You can look at the competition and learn from it versus looking at the competition and being discouraged by it. So they say that the worst thing we can do is compare ourselves to others. Unless we are well equipped with it, making it a learning situation, not taking it internally as a mark that you'll never meet. So comparing ourselves can be a major dimmer. Another dimmer in our own light is, fear. And fear is an interesting thing. It's like the computer, what do they call it? Whatever, in the background. The computer. It's
Operating system?
Yeah. So that computer system in the background that's running all along, it's like Windows has put this nice face on things so we can figure out how to do it without being website designers or programmers. But there's this operating system running in the background that's having the computer do what they want to do. So fear can be an operating system that's working in the background. And the reason I bring it up is because when it's working in the background, we're not aware of it. We're not aware that we're being driven by it or influenced by it. We're not aware that it is why we did not go into the living room, get on our own laptops or computers, and finish the project we were on, because there's this OS in the background saying, oh my God, it'll never happen. Oh dear, you can't do it, and so on. And I've learned to recognize that. And it shows up differently in all of us. So it's something that each individual has to look at. But I would say that a big hint is when you're just not working on it, whatever it is. You're thinking about it, but you're not getting there. Then it's time to unpack the fear. For example, I also paint. So white canvas fear.
Yeah.
There is such a thing. They do talk to artists about it. It's not something I made up or only I experience. But there's white canvas fear. There it is. It's a white canvas. And I have all of these ideas of what wants to be born on my canvas, and I can paint it out and give it to the world. I have these ideas in my head. And then I have the white canvas on my easel saying, waiting for you. And then it says, I dare you. And then it says, and furthermore, whatever it is that you do on me, it's not going to be as good as the ones that you like. It's going to be awful. And so that fear of, oh my God, I'm going to ruin the canvas, I'm going to waste a lot of paint, it's not going to be what I want it to be, will take me away from the white canvas for a really long time until I finally overcome that and say, just do it. They recommend in the art classes I've had, they say, first of all, put a background color on, a ground. That's what the people who painted for so long back in the day did. They always put some kind of ground on it so white doesn't throw through the paint. But we're putting ground on it frequently these days to get over white canvas fear. So once you get the ground on, if you're having ground fear, then they said, well, just put some marks on it, you know, and you can put a lot of, if it's oils, you can put a lot of turpentine and oil into it so it comes out almost like watercolor so that when you paint it over it won't be seen. Putting marks on with pencils frequently can be seen, but some people are okay with that. So you put some marks on it. You have overcome white canvas and ground fear. Now I'll get up and I'll work on it. But initially there is that, oh my God. But what's most important is what I'm thinking behind it. It's going to be an awful painting, yada, yada. And then here's the beauty of that. My latest workshop, not my last, but my latest, she said, you know, just keep painting until you like it. So you put it up there, you don't like it, paint some more. You don't like that, paint some more. And I thought, what a unique idea. Because in my classes, a number of my classes, I was taught not to overwork the painting. To paint the painting, and that was that. It was its own statement. If you don't like it, get another canvas and paint something else. But she said, oh no, just keep putting stuff on it. So you get these lovely layers, and yeah, it could be a little thick, but people like texture, Jeffrey. They get these lovely layers and finally get to something I like. So I love that one, and I thought, so how does that apply in life? So here you are, you're doing something, you're not happy about it. Oh, first of all, you're afraid of it. So you don't even try. Well, how that applies in life is, well, just go in there and start. You know, work on it for 5 minutes. You've heard that before. I have found whenever I start to work on it for 5 minutes, I can work on whatever it is for 15 or 20 minutes. Usually mine is around housework. And I'm not afraid of housework, I just don't like it. I don't want to do it. I'd rather do something more fun. It's not fun. But if I give myself, okay, you have 5 minutes, and this area right here, the chair in my bedroom, for example, with clothes I wore for the week, that one.
Yeah.
You know, just take 5 minutes to start putting those clothes where they are. Dirty clothes, clean clothes, closet. Well, then I get interested in the desk, the chest of drawers top. And then I might also get interested in whatever's on the floor. And by the time I finish all that, my room's clean, yay. So 5 minutes just starting on something, not letting the blank canvas effect stop you. Also, turning on our own lights. Facing the fear, I mentioned that before. Unpacking, what is it about whatever I'm afraid of? What is it? And how realistic is it? I used to say that one of my nightmares, and Von's laughing because he distinctly remembers it. I used to say my biggest fear was that I'd end up being a bag lady under the viaduct. It was a little deep-seated. My former therapist boyfriend is looking at me like, what?
I got rid of the viaduct.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they did.
It's moved so you can't be there.
Didn't think
But-
about that.
I used my logic. I said, what is the likelihood of me getting to a point where that would happen to me? And frankly, I actually do know of people that happened to. People who lost everything, had nobody to support them, and became poor and sick and unsupported. I do know of some of those people. I said, so what's my likelihood of that happening? I said, well, I have family. And my sister would never let me live under a viaduct.
Right.
Never. So I have family, I have friends, and whatever it was that I was concerned about taking me to the viaduct, maybe lack of work or something, it wasn't even in my life. I don't really know anymore why I had that fear, but for a while I was dependent on my job. That's right, I was working full time, dependent on my job, and I thought, no full-time job, viaduct. That's a big leap. There's all kinds of potential that could happen in between no job and viaduct that would prevent me from being in the viaduct should I open myself up to this infinite potential. I have another friend who's been given offers and suggestions and requests. Would you do this? Would you? And she says, well, I'm not totally ready for that. I need one more class. I need to read another book. I need to practice some more before I'm ready to take that leap. And a couple of weeks ago, I had two people call me, two friends, who said, I've just been offered. In one case, it was a temporary promotion, and in the other case, it was an opportunity to work on a particular project that was bigger than what she'd been working on in the past. And both of them were like, should I do this? And I was like, you really called me up to ask me, should you do this? Of course you should do this. Are you crazy? Absolutely. I said, first of all, it's an interim. You can get to go back to your old job. So you don't lose anything. That was the interim one. And for the project one, I said, Sweet Pea, you got game. You know what you're doing. You're very bright. And besides me, you have other friends who can all help you on that project. You just call us. If you get stuck, if you want ideas, if you want support, you got game. So you don't need another book, another workshop, and some practice. Both of them leaped into the opportunities. I have to check back with them to see how it's going, but I know, because I know them, that it's just fine. So again, dimmers on our own light when we're doing it is by saying, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do that. I'm not qualified, whatever. And we talk ourselves out of it. My sister knows this. I always say, never be the first to tell yourself no. Mm-hmm. Don't you say, oh no. Let somebody else say, oh no, and then argue with them. And so finally, we have the who's been lights in your lives, and think about them and send thank you to them from your heart. Who's a regular light in your life, even if they're flickering like the Christmas tree lights. Recognize and appreciate those lights encouraging you in the way that they do. Then the circumstances, that because of this circumstance, you are now able to be and do more in the world. I think when Mike and I were talking, coming in this morning, about people who had substance issues and then became teachers and coaches and supporters of people trying to move through their substance abuse and become whole and clean again. And so the very circumstance of being in that world themselves and knowing the difficulties and the thoughts that happen while people are addicted to whatever they're addicted to. Understanding that made them more powerful and makes them more powerful teachers and supporters and guides to the folks who want to break through that. So bad circumstance, better outcome, because they're taking what they knew, what they learned in the situation, and helping others with it. So being a light for others. There was, in practitioner training, we were told to go out and save somebody's life. And this was for this philosophy, Science of Mind. And my entire class, there were about 10 of us, we all looked like deer in the headlights. How in the heck are we going to save somebody's life? You know, you go to the San Francisco Bridge and wait for somebody to get ready to jump off and then talk them out of it? How do you do that? We all flunked week 1 of saving somebody's life. So she said, okay, since you guys didn't do anything, I'm going to give it to you again, and you better not come back here and tell me you didn't do it, because our practitioner training may be in serious jeopardy. And we all wanted desperately and heartfully to be practitioners. So we went out and found some way to save people's lives. I came to the conclusion that it wasn't literal. I didn't have to stop somebody from jumping off the bridge. But I figured I did have to do something pivotal for someone. So I was standing in the store. Some of you know this story. And there was this mother berating her little boy. He was about this high, so I think he was 8 or 9. And she was just going up one side of him and down the other. And she was telling him he was stupid, and he was just awful, what she was saying to him in a store right there in front of everybody. It would have been awful without the witnesses, but the fact that she could do this in front of people was bad as well. And both of them were well dressed, so it wasn't like, you know, they were poor people who were at the end of their rope and the end of their tempers and what have you. He was all clean and his hair was cut, and so on. And the more she said to him, the more his little posture went down until his head was hanging. So when the service clerk was doing the transaction and she was paying him, I bent over next to him and I said, "You are a wonderful person. You're a light. You're very, very smart. I'll bet you're really a good boy most of the time, and this is just a momentary thing. I said everything I could think of that a child might understand, in language a child might understand, to boost him." And he was looking like this, and he looked up at me out of the side of his eyes, and then he slowly stood back up again and was looking at me. And I thought, it's helping. And then his mother's head whirled around, and she had that, "What are you saying to my child?" look. She didn't say anything to me. She just gave me that, "Why are you talking to my child?" look. And I stepped back, and the little boy was still looking at me, and then his mother jerked him out of the store. I truly believe that few seconds of telling him he was all that, I felt, I'm just knowing that he's going to hold on to that with both hands, regardless of what his mother says to him. So as far as I was concerned, I had saved his life. Not that his life was really in jeopardy, but his heart sure was. Yeah. So being a light for others and being sensitive, I can say this now many moons later, I have been at times quite insensitive, and I send energetic apologies to all that I have not been my best with. But consciously being willing to be a light for others, we never know how that's going to take place. Like one of our former congregation, Cheryl, initiated putting up a free library in her neighborhood. And I just knew that was a wonderful idea because there are people who can't pay for books or people who don't really want to put the money on the books. They could buy them if they wanted to, but they don't want to. And so there's this little place where they could get free books. And even better yet, there's a place where you could put your books so others could get them. Instead of taking them off to the used bookstore, you could just put them right in there. So in her own way, she was being a light to others. Some child may have gotten a book they wouldn't have gotten, or some adult may have had a lot of fun reading something they didn't have at home. So this being a light can be however it shows up. Our opportunity is to take advantage of that light within us, to share it in the ways that come to us, however they may be. And then final reminder, being eternally thankful for the light in our lives, the lights in our lives, the circumstances, the people, and especially those repeat encouragers who show up in their own way. It's like the 5 languages of love. Light has its own way of showing up through people. It can be coming to their jazz concert in the middle of the night, like my sister did this past week. As cold and dark as it was outside, she came to one of my concerts. Thank you, sister.
Welcome.
And being a light for ourselves, regardless. If somebody turns off the switch, we can just turn it back on. You pull everything you can. Remember what's already been said or what you've already done that was successful. Turn that light back on. And encourage yourself. And allow yourself to have inner joy about these things. Inner joy about the person who thinks of you and does for you and remembers you. Like my dad picking up my mail when I'm over with Mike. He's willing to do that. And I always worry a little bit about him doing that because I don't want anyone to think that somebody's stealing the mail out of my mailbox and it's my dad if they don't know that that's my dad. But it's something he's willing to do, and it's a sweet little thing he does for me that I really appreciate. And then the final thing around our inner light is also our intuitive voice. I'm sure that those of you who pay attention to the intuitive voice know that it's a small, teeny, tiny, quiet voice. And it generally flies in the face of our intellect, what we're thinking. So this is what I'm going to do. Then you have this little voice that says, well, maybe you shouldn't do that right now. And you're like, no, I want to do it. And I want to do it now. And I want to do it this way. And there's this little voice that says, no, maybe not. And I love it when my little, small, still voice says, you've done very well arranging your talk for this church today. However, you need to have this, this, and this in it. And there was one church in Kent, a Unity church that I spoke at a lot before Northern Lights. And my intuition changed my talk every time. And I kept saying, why can't you tell me this when I write the talk? Why do you have to tell me this as I'm leaving on Sunday? And I would argue with that small, still voice. I would argue all the way to the church. And I would always give in and make the change. So finally, what I started doing, since I usually outlined my talks with little Post-its, I brought extra Post-its. Problem solved. Move this one over, stick that one in there, and say whatever it is, my intuition. Like you might tell me to tell a story, and I'm like, I'm tired of that story. I've told that story 100 times. I know this congregation hasn't heard it, but I am tired of that story. And the intuition would say, tell the story. No, tell the story. No, tell the story. Okay. And inevitably, somebody would come up and say, you know that story. Inevitably. So that still small voice that's telling us to tell the story or talk to the person, or go ahead and take a chance on this situation. Trust it. And if you're not used to trusting it, start with little things where if it's wrong, it won't be a big deal. But you'll learn to be able to pull out that small, still small voice from the chorus of everybody else in our heads by just giving it a little trust. So there you have it. In this season of lights, your lights, the lights that you have in your world, and the lights that you can be in the world, I now charge you with going forth and shining. And so we have a song for you about that. Maestro? And after the song, our practitioner will close this talk out.
To the words of the song.
I
So let's breathe that in. Ooh. And so as we take a breath in, we allow that breath to remind us that God is absolutely all that there is, and that we are one with this power, we are one with this light. As the service has reminded us that we are each the light, we carry the light. We are the ones to allow our light to shine. We are also the ones that can dim our own light. But today, let us choose to allow our light to shine, to be more brilliant than we ever thought possible, to step outside of what others have said about us, what we think about ourselves, and allow ourselves to rise and to be the greatness that we are. We were placed here to be the light. So let us now allow that light to shine. Let us stand tall. Let us sit upright in our seats. Let us move boldly through the world because we are the light. And so as we celebrate this time of light and we celebrate this time of celebration, let us celebrate ourselves because we are the light. And so I'm in a place of gratitude. I'm in a place of thanksgiving for being reminded of how powerful my light is and how powerful each and every one of our lights are. We are the one. We are the chosen. We are the beloved. I give thanks. I give thanks as I allow this to be. And I seal this for all eternity by saying Ashe.
Hashem.
Amen.
Amen.
And so it is.
And so it is.